I think it has been lower. I think full context, like we took the job 3 weeks before pre-season last year, and we only had 10 players at that time. So yeah, it's definitely been a little bit lower this time. Not much, but a little bit.
Yeah. And then let's see here. I guess another, you know, pretty relevant question to the topic. With General Manager Peter Marlette stepping down, is it a different stress entering the off season?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I've got really good support here. Guys like Marty Cordero, who's obviously our president, and Marty helps a lot. And Gary and Larry, the owners, have been fantastic. And then, my coaching staff and guys like Wes have been really supportive. So I think we've all picked up the slack in different ways. And Peter's obviously a great guy and did some great work here. And I loved working with Peter. And we wish him all the best with whatever he is he's doing now. Um, Peter's still helping a little bit actually in the transition period that we're going through. But obviously now there's more work to be spread out until we find somebody to replace Peter.
Nice. And then we have another fan question in from Patrick Walsh. You can find him on Twitter at Patrick18291287. His is how do his responsibilities get distributed in the meantime, and how involved are you in the search for the new general manager?
Yeah, I help a little bit in terms of identifying some candidates or putting forward candidates that I think might be a good fit. Um, Peter would do a lot of the negotiating with agents, he'd finalise the contracts, that sort of stuff. We have a really amazing young lady called Kayla Rowland that works for us, and Kayla's picked up a lot of the slack in terms of getting contracts finalised and that type of stuff. So Kayla's been a huge help, and I'm sure she's going to be really really successful in the future. She's just getting started here in Omaha, and she's done some great work. So um, Kayla does a lot of the contract stuff. I'll speak to a lot of the agents. Marty helps out. Um, the coaching staff help out in terms of looking at players and things like that as well. And it's really a team effort now in just picking up different bits and pieces that Peter was doing.
I'm glad to hear that Kayla's getting some recognition because when I spoke to her last night about this very topic, she was very humble, saying that Marty was carrying the load. And so it's good to hear that you're giving her recognition for putting some work in too.
Yeah, listen, Marty's great, and Marty's definitely guiding Kayla and helping Kayla. Um, but yeah, she deserves some recognition. Kayla's fantastic, and we're really lucky to have her.
Nice.
Very nice. So I mean, we kind of got um, some of the initial stuff out of the way. So let's kind of rewind back and look at when you were first hired before this last season started. Um, can you kind of talk about maybe some of the biggest pieces of advice that you're given from others before you landed the job here at Union Omaha, or even just advice for it being your first head coaching or first managerial job like that?
Yeah, pretty fortunate to have a good support network of other coaches who were head coaches at the time or had been head coaches previously. They all kind of encouraged me to take the job first and foremost. They said it would be a great experience to do it and step into a head coaching role, and that's definitely proven to be the case. So I've learned so much, and it's been such a great challenge that I've really enjoyed it every single day. Um, I think some of the advice that I got was around taking your time with things, not rushing into things, especially on decisions with players. Um, don't rush into things. Make sure you're sure about the people that you're bringing in, whether that be players or staff. And I think that's definitely something I learned as the season went on to make sure that you're getting the right people in the building, not just people in the building, right? You want to make sure they're the right people that can bring value to the club. And I asked a few of the guys that are head coaches now that are kind of part of my network, I guess you could say, or friends of mine. I asked them like, because I was moving from being an assistant to being a head coach, and I said to them like, what do you feel like the biggest difference has been for you having made that step? And I think they all said the same thing in terms of the biggest difference being the number of decisions that you have to make and the fact that those decisions have a consequence, right? Those decisions weigh heavier on your mind than when you're an assistant. Because as an assistant coach, if you say to me, "Hey Dom, who should be our left back in the game this week?" I can say, "Oh, it should be Rich, and this is why." and then that's the end of it for me, right? But then as the head coach, you've got to take that decision. You've got to think about it. You've got to understand implications. If Rich plays, what does that do to Brian? And all the possible consequences you've got to play out in your own mind before you make that decision. So I think just taking the time, making sure you've got enough kind of brain power as well, because you can get pulled in a million different directions. So making sure you've got the capacity to really invest time into the decision making process is really important, and something I would say to other coaches stepping into a head coaching role for the first time.
And what would you say is one of the biggest obstacles you've faced, since then?
In terms of just being a head coach,
Yeah.
I think it's that. I think it's the fact that everybody wants a little bit of your time, and you get pulled in a million different directions. And ultimately, your job is to make decisions to help the team win. And if you allow yourself to be pulled in all these different directions and don't dedicate enough time to think about the decisions that you're making, it can obviously damage the team. So I think the biggest challenge was that, right? It was, understanding when to say no to people, when to say, hey, I can't deal with that right now. You're going to have to deal with it, so that I can put thought into the decisions around the team, which are ultimately what's going to determine how successful I am.
Very nice. Um, yeah, I mean, so when you're actually out there recruiting players, um, how are you able to kind of instill the confidence in prospects despite it being so early in your managerial career, or even if you wanted to talk about last season being your first year?
Yeah, look, I think I have a lot of conviction in the way I work on a day-to-day basis, and I think I have a lot of conviction in the way that we play. And I think most players would want to be part of the environment that we create, because I think it gets the best out of players. And I think the way we play is a fun way to play. It's a way that I think I would enjoy if I was a player. I think most players want to play for a team that looks to dominate the ball, looks to create as many chances as possible, and looks to go and get the ball back as quickly as possible when they lose it. So I think those things are easy to sell because it's what I believe in, right? It's not me selling, it's me telling people, this is who we are, this is what we do. I'm speaking to you because I think you can be part of it. I think you've got the quality to be part of it. If you don't, it's no problem. There's plenty of other players out there. And I think, the success that we had this year is maybe a little bit proof of concept for people that, one, obviously, we have a good team with good players. Two, we have a competent coaching staff. And then three, if they come here, hopefully we're going to give them the platform to be successful as a team, which will then lead to individuals, maybe moving up the ladder and going on to have really good careers for themselves.
So speaking of the momentum that you were hoping to achieve when you started the season, like you said in the off season, you had 10 players. You were still uh, gathering your the rest of your technical staff. Once the season started and you had your full roster, you decided to go with that 4-4-2, the diamond 4-4-2. What were you seeing on tape from other USL League One clubs that gave you confidence in using that formation?
Yeah, I don't think it was really to do with the opposition. I think it was how I wanted to play. I don't think I really took into account the opposition too much when I came in and I said, all right, this is how we want to play. This is the formation we're going to use. That was more about my own beliefs around the game rather than, what Tom Enter are doing or what Fuego are doing or Chattanooga. That was me saying, all right, these are my ideas. This is why I want to play the game. And this is the formation that I think allows us to do that best. As the season went on, we started to learn about the league and understand, all right, we needed to tweak one or two things in order to have the success that we could. And I think we've done that in a really good way. And obviously, we're fortunate enough to win the league after doing it.
Yeah. So just coming into the league, you said obviously that you didn't really um, tailor your system that you wanted to play into uh, based around the league. Are there any other kind of preconceived notions that you had at the beginning of the season that kind of were just dispelled when you came in?
No, not really. I think, you know, um, League One being the third tier, I think maybe people that are not in the league or haven't been around the league, haven't watched a lot of it, maybe don't understand how good it is, right? And I think there's a lot of good coaches, there's a lot of good clubs, a lot of very good players in the league. And having spent a couple of years in the Championship and knowing that level really well, I think there's a ton of players in USL One that could step up to the Championship and slot into some of the best teams straight away and do really well. Obviously, see one or two of our guys who are going to be doing that. Joe Brito, I think, was just announced going to Rhode Island FC. And we're expecting Joe to do really well there, and we're happy for him and hope he makes the most of the move. So, no, look, I think League One is a good league. I think every single year it's getting better and better. And, I think the parity between the top and the bottom teams is what makes it so competitive and so fun to watch.
And speaking of that parity, there were uh, some early season. There were some draws in there. There were some losses in there. At what point did you think to yourself, "All right, this Diamond 442 is not working. We got to switch it up. We got to do some more experimentation with some of the personnel. We got to do something different."
Yeah, we had a spell where we didn't win for 7 games, and I think kind of just to give you the context, like we went through pre-season without losing a game. Uh, so at the time, I'm thinking, all right, like maybe we're going to be okay. We weren't always playing great in pre-season, but there was something about us we weren't losing. So I thought, all right, like maybe we're going to be all right. Maybe we're going to do well this season. And I think because we didn't really have any adversity during pre-season, and then we had a period where we lost our first game. I think it was against North Carolina at home. It was terrible conditions. I don't know if you remember. It was snowing, I think, that day, and we had the fans out there, cleaning the snow off the pitch and stuff. So we faced a little bit of adversity, and I think because we hadn't really faced any in pre-season, we didn't really know how to respond to it. And that was a difficult period for us, right? Because shortly after that, we went 7 games without a win, like I said, and look, it wasn't like we lost 7 games. We tied 5 and we lost 2. But I think in that period, we learned a lot about the league and what we thought worked and maybe what didn't work, and then made the necessary adjustments. But yeah, that was a difficult time for all of us. I think any coach, you get into it because you want to win, you want to be successful, and when your team's not winning or they're drawing a lot of games like we were, throwing away a lot of points, it hurts, right? It hurts because that's a reflection of your work. So yeah, that was a painful period for us all. But I think what we try and do here is we try and learn from every experience, right? Whether that's a training session, whether that's a game that we win, a game that we lose, a game that we draw, we're always trying to get better, right? So I think we used that period where things weren't going the way we wanted it to results wise, and we took what we could out of it to make the team stronger.
And it's so funny that you mentioned the North Carolina match with the snow, because when we interviewed John right after they won the playoffs, he mentioned that exact match, and just how crazy it was walking out to before the national anthem and all that kind of stuff, and seeing the snow come down.
What else did he say about it? Did he say they got a lucky penalty in the first 30 seconds? Did he tell you that?
I think that was the next thing out of his mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then did he tell you about a big deflection right before half time as well? No, I'm joking.
That's
Listen, they
great.
were deserved winners of the playoffs, and I'm sure John's going to do great in the championship now. We're hoping those guys do well. He's building a great team there, so we wish those guys all the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about, the early season struggles and the fact that it was 7 games. So how long did it take for you and your coaching staff to come up with a new plan or to decide what your next course of action was going to be to right the ship? And also, how long do you feel like it took for the players kind of to get on board with the plan that you guys put forth?
Yeah, I think the players were always on board with everything we were doing, and I think the players, like to a man, were just exceptional, like just outstanding to work with. And from the guys that played a lot to the guys that played a little, I felt like they were always bought in, even when we weren't winning every week. Um, I guess what I would say is we didn't throw everything out the window when we didn't win 7 games. Like our messaging was pretty consistent in that if we keep playing the way we were playing, results were going to come. So we didn't change our style. We didn't change how we played. We just tweaked a few things formation wise. Um, and then you could put it down to that, but you could also put it down to the guys just understanding me, getting more comfortable with the system. Um, After we won, after those 7 games, feeling like, okay, Dom's telling the truth. Things are going to come right. He's been telling us that. We know we're playing well. Now the results are coming. We can relax a little bit and do our thing. So I think it's a combination of things. But what I want to stress is that we didn't completely change our playing style at all. Like, our identity as a team didn't change. We still pressed higher. We still tried to dominate the ball. We still reacted quickly when we lost it. Like, all of those things, we did from day one to the end of the season. We just had to tweak one or two things tactically to protect ourselves a little bit more.
So you talk about that pivotal moment on the field, but you also had a pivotal moment off the field as well. And I don't know if a lot of people around League One know this, but there was a locker room meeting where everyone's voice was heard and everyone's concerns were addressed. Now that is a very brave thing to do as a head coach, because that's one of those meetings where you could easily lose control of the room. How are you able to keep control of the room, maintain focus, and keep them motivated for the second half of the season?
No, look, we have a wonderful group of players, right? That's what it comes down to. And I actually remember. So what had happened? We tied with Knoxville. We were 1-0 up, and we threw away another late goal. Right? I think we conceded a penalty in like the 91st minute or something. We tied the game 1-1, right? And I think that was the 7th game that we went without a win. So everyone was really frustrated. The players knew they were playing really well, but like, having these moments where they just kind of collapsed, right? So we reviewed the game a little bit, and after that, I just said, "Look, guys, I've got to be honest with you. This has been a really difficult period for me, because I know we're doing a lot of really good things, right? But it's been painful because we're being judged on results here, not on how well we're playing." And I said, it's been painful for me. It's been tough for me to take because I know how hard I'm working, the rest of the staff, and more than anyone, you guys, right? And I know you guys are giving everything. I said, look, I'm telling you how I feel. How do you guys feel? And when I said that, the room opened up and everybody got to speak. And I think probably the biggest mistake I made, Rich, when I first came in, is I recognized that the team was maybe a little bit quiet. It was a pretty quiet locker room, and during games and practices, we'd noticed that something was a little bit off in terms of the camaraderie and the chemistry in the group. And I think it wasn't until those moments where we suffered together that we realised like we need to pay more attention to this and get guys coming out of their shell a little bit more. And I think that was kind of the catalyst when we went through that difficult period for me to be like, all right, I need to get these guys to start opening up a little bit more, giving a little bit more. And when they started to do that, we focused more on it in training, doing little different bits and pieces in training or in meetings. And obviously the results speak for themselves. But look, that meeting that we had is one of many where we wanted to get input from the players, and I think it gets highlighted because the circumstances, right? Like, it was 7 games without a win. We had this meeting, and then we win the next game. It's like, oh, it's because of the meeting, and it's like there's so many more things that go into winning and losing that people are not privy to. But I'm sure that was a contributing factor.
Before Brian asks his next question, this one just popped into mind. If they make a movie about Union Omaha, they're going to have this pivotal moment where you're giving a stirring speech and all that kind of stuff. Who's going to play you in that movie?
I don't know. Some ugly guy. I don't know.
Oh, that's funny. I would watch that movie, by the way. Be a great movie. Um, so now that we're kind of into the season and after things kind of turned around for you guys, um, I mean, did you ever in your wildest dreams imagine that your season would end up winning 40 out of 42 points to end the season and win the regular season title?
No, it was obviously a hell of a run. I knew we were capable of it. I knew we had the players for it. And I think it was just a case of things starting to click, which thankfully they did. But yeah, I don't think any coach would expect to pick up that many points in that many games. But obviously, we're thankful that we did, and it felt like we were playing playoff football for 14 or 15 games there at the end of the season.
did you have any rituals during that stretch of matches, that stretch of wins that that you feel like carried those wins too?
No, no, I don't
No?
have lucky underwear or anything like that. No, so nothing. No, nothing like that. I'm not superstitious or anything like
Yeah.
that.
That's fair. So
Sorry to break it to you, Rich. I feel like I've disappointed you there.
I think he was just waiting for me to jump in and throw an office joke in there, but it didn't come that time. So
Well, if you'd have sponsored any sort of underwear, that would have been a bestseller in Omaha. They'd have been selling out of that in the stores tomorrow.
so
And
it's just kind of throughout the season, Coach. Was there one particular moment that sticks out in your mind that you'll remember most about the entire season?
Yeah, it's tough to pick out one moment because there's so many great moments. And there was also some really painful moments as well, right? Like I talk about that penalty we conceded against Knoxville at the end of the game. I guess on the positive side, we actually scored a last minute winner at Knoxville, and we had just gone down to 10 men in like the 80th minute. So we're thinking, all right, we're gonna have to hang on a little bit here. Made a couple of subs, and then all of a sudden, like we found a little bit of life. And Dion Acock, who's just a tremendous player, comes up with a goal in literally like with the last kick of the game to win the game. Great finish. The guys are all celebrating down in the corner as they make their way back to the halfway line. The heavens just opened, um, and it was a torrential downpour. Thunder and lightning. And the referee blows his whistle in that moment, and all the guys at Knoxville are trying to get us off the pitch because they don't want anyone to get struck by lightning. And then I mentioned just now about the guys kind of being quiet, and I felt like there was something with the guys where I felt like it's a little bit of a quiet locker room, but then the celebrations from the guys in the locker room afterwards were incredible, and everyone's soaking wet, right? They've just been drenched in this downpour, and just to see the joy and the celebrations on the guys' faces was just outstanding. And then I started to realize, all right, I think the team is coming together. I think we're becoming, a talented group of individuals now becoming a team, and that was, a beautiful moment for me to see, and I think a part of the momentum shifting for us and me starting to realize, all right, like we can do something this year.
so Brian asked your favorite, positive memory there. How about your favorite fan interaction?
This is a good one. Um, I'm not going to tell you who it was, but the last regular home game of the season, a fan comes up to me a little bit intoxicated and gives me a big hug and says, "Coach, I owe you an apology." And I said, "What do you owe me an apology for?" And they said, "Well, at the beginning of the season, we kept tying all these games, and I thought you were useless." And then they said, "But now we can't stop winning, and I think you're great." So that was pretty funny. And I think it just kind of shows you, right, like the margins in soccer are so fine that you win one week and you're a hero, you lose the next week and you're a complete idiot. That moment, that interaction, just kind of captured that for me, and I thought it was really funny, and something I tell people about now, like when they ask me about what it's like to be a head coach, or how's your job going, and I share that story, and people tend to laugh. So that's definitely one of my favorites, just because it made me laugh.
Very much so. It's so I with us playing at a baseball pitch, or a converted baseball field into a pitch. Um, Kind of what do you think about playing on the actual field surface itself and the layout of the stadium, um, and just kind of how do you feel about the fans that are sitting in those seats week in and week out?
I think first and foremost, the fans are amazing. I think we have the best fans in the league. They're super passionate. They travel sometimes to watch us play, which is not easy to do in America. After the last game of the season, when we beat Madison to win the title, partying with the fans after the game, it was just incredible. Um, so yeah, I think the fans are amazing. They definitely give us a little push when we need it. In terms of the stadium and the surface, like we love Werner Park. Obviously, it's home for us. The surface is always great, and I know a lot of people talk about converting from baseball into a soccer field, but Kyle, our groundsman, and his whole crew, they do a tremendous job. Obviously, Marty overlooks that process. Marty always makes sure that the standards are super high. That was something that Peter was doing before, but Marty will have more of a role in that now, and he's got high standards for us as an organisation, making sure that the playing service is as best as it can be, and Kyle and his crew do a great job every week. So we never have any complaints about it, and no, it's touch wood, it's never affected a game, and those guys know what they're doing. So no, we trust that they're always going to do a good job, and the surface has been excellent this season.
And speaking of stadiums and fields and all that kind of stuff, Union Omaha has been rumored to be linked with a stadium development coming down the pipe here pretty soon. Has the ownership group been in touch with you about what kind of dimensions you want from the field? Do you want it small like Warner, or do you want it big and expansive like North Carolina?
Um, I don't think it really matters to me. They haven't asked me. If they ask me, I'll give my opinion and yeah, tell them what we would like and stuff. But no, they haven't asked me. To me, it would be great for the club to have its own stadium. Right? I think the fans would love it. I think the atmosphere would go through the roof. It's already a great atmosphere, but to have your own soccer specific stadium, I think is something that everybody in the club is striving for. And I know every time I see the fans, they always ask me if I have an update. Unfortunately, I don't. Um, but no, look, I think it's something that's in the works. Obviously, it's in good hands with Gary and Marty pushing the envelope. So I'm sure it'll be here sooner rather than later, and hopefully I can be involved in some of the design. Um, yeah,
Because you're not leaving anytime soon. So obviously you're going to be a key component of that.
yeah, exactly.
Um, so we'll kind of switch gears here, Coach, and look forward to the season. I mean, it's coming up really fast, and I think a big question on a lot of Union Omaha fans' minds um, is, can they expect to see a different style out of you guys coming this season, or are you just going to run it back and do, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't think my style will ever change. Like I'll tweak it, and obviously tactically we can change things. We might change the shape. We might change personnel, but our intention to dominate the game with and without the ball will never change, and I'll never change that about myself and my coaching. Um, so no, the style will be the same, and it might look a little bit different at times in terms of personnel, in terms of formation, but no, the way we play is non-negotiable.
And during the off season, are you this a question actually comes from uh Zach Mushi Garcia as well. So in the off season, are you casually watching, film on prospects, or have you already done that during the season? In the off season, like how are you handling watching film for prospects and doing your recruiting?
Yeah, it's spread out throughout the staff. So we all watch tape on different people, different players, I should say, and then we've done a lot of scouting ahead of time during the season. So we had a good idea of who our top targets are coming into the off season. Um, we were putting contracts out to certain guys during the season as well. Now, obviously, things are accelerating, and we're watching tape, we're speaking to agents, we're getting references on people because there's plenty of good players out there, right? But you want to make sure you get the best possible player with the best possible personality that fits into the group and recognizes that if they're going to come here, this is an environment and a team where everybody has to put their own needs to one side and do what's best for the group. So getting people with that type of mentality in the building is super important, and obviously they have to be good players as well. But the two things go hand in hand. Is one, does he check the box as a player, and then two, does he check the box as a person?
Yeah, that actually goes perfectly into another question from John Bukowski, at John Bukowski Omaha on Twitter. And he asks, what are the qualities you look for most when recruiting a player to the program?
Yeah, it's obviously quality, right? Are they going to raise the level of the team? Can they come in and challenged for a starting spot. Because if they can do that, then they're probably pretty good players. Then we want to look at what their training habits are like, what they're like as people, how are they when things are not going well. Right? Everybody's great when they're playing every week and the team is winning. But if the team is not doing well, or if they're on the bench or they're not in the squad, what are they going to be like? Right? Are they going to be bad apples around the place? Are they going to be bringing the level of training down, or acting up, or sulking? And if they are, they're not the right guys for this football club. So we do a lot of work in making sure that we get the right people in the building. And you don't always get it right, but I think when you do, it can be pretty powerful. So we spend a lot of time on that.
And you brought back a core group of players for 2024. One of the players that was included in that group was a late signing last season, Lagos Kunga. Now, Brian and I were hearing some rumors that he was being approached by several USL championship clubs. So, how does it feel to be able to sign a player like Lagos and prevent him from? I mean, obviously, we want all the players to be successful. We want them to further their careers, and eventually, they want to play up in championship. But how does it feel to be such an attractive club that he would stay with Union Omaha instead of going to championship?
Yeah, Lagos is great. I think first and foremost, he's just a wonderful guy. He's full of joy. He's a pleasure to be around. He's always happy. He's always smiling, and we've got a lot of love for Lagos. As a player, he's got tremendous quality, and I think it's only right that he's being recognised by clubs at a higher level. And I think eventually he'll get back there and be at a level that he should be at. But right now he's our player, and for me, he's a top player, and he'll be a top player in the league this season.
So there was a key moment. I'm going to circle back to a memory that I had that made a huge impression on me of you last season. And it actually happened in the semifinal match against Charlotte. And after the match, when the Independence was celebrating in their locker room, you actually took the time to go into their locker room to congratulate them. And I will say, I have never seen a coach do that. And what inspired you to do that? And what kind of message did you tell them when
Archie,
you
go
were in their
upstairs.
locker room?
No, listen, I didn't address the whole team. I went and said congratulations to the players and to Mike. Brad, the assistant coach, I've known for a long time since we were both based in New York. So I just wished them good luck for the final and told them congratulations. It's obviously we wish it was us, but Mike's a class act, and they got to the final. So wish them all the best, and yeah, that was it really.
And I mean, it was an incredibly classy move. So I just want to, say thank you for you know doing that. It's one of those small things that nobody sees that you were able to do that really just was a very impressive gesture. So thank you for doing that.
No, no problem, Richard. Just felt like it was the right thing to do at the time. So
And what are your thoughts on the League One Cup for 2024?
yeah, I'm excited about it. I know all the details are still being revealed right now, but we're excited about it. I think anytime you can play for more silverware, it's exciting and it motivates the players, it motivates the staff. So hopefully it motivates the fans as well, and we're looking forward to competing for the title.
So, Coach, I just had a question that kind of came up in my own head here. Is there a certain amount of time that goes between playing matches that you feel like is sort of the sweet spot for a team?
In terms of the turnaround between one game and the next,
Correct. Yep.
yeah, I think a week is a good period of time for the staff to reflect on the past game, take bits from it, and then build into the game that's coming up. So I think a week is good. Saturday to Saturday is kind of perfect. I think in an ideal world, all coaches would play Saturday, but obviously that's taken out of our hands a lot of the time.
Yep. And taken out of your hands, one of those times was playing a mid-season or a midweek match, Open Cup. You beat your former club, El Paso Locomotive, moved past them to play against St. Louis City in St. Louis. Give us, your thoughts on playing in front of that incredible atmosphere.
Yeah, it was a tough one because we lost 5-1, I think, Rich, that night.
Yeah.
No, wonderful stadium. Obviously they're doing great things. Brad and John Hackworth, who I know well, they've done tremendous stuff there this year, and it's great to see them be so successful. The city's really got behind the team, and I think it was intimidating for us to go there and play. I think the players and some of the staff were maybe a little bit shocked at the intensity of the atmosphere. Um, but it's something I really enjoyed and something I'd love to be a part of on a more regular basis at some point in the future.
So how do you prepare Union Omaha for those type of matches in the future? Do you blast music while they're in training?
I don't know if you can prepare for that type of atmosphere. I think it was 22,000, right? I don't know if you can prepare for that type of crowd and playing in that type of stadium when you're kind of at our level, right? I think it's just about maybe getting some of the players that played in that game. Let's say we go back and play St. Louis, this season in the Open Cup, and we play in their stadium again, and we know what to expect. The guys, and including myself, right? The guys that were here in 2023 and myself, we can share what those experiences are like. We can share about what are the most important moments of the game to manage. And we did speak about that going into the game, right? We said at the beginning of each half, we want to keep it tight. We want to make sure we don't give away anything cheap. And then, if you remember, we conceded, I think, after 2 minutes, and then 2 minutes into the second half as well, which threw our game plan out the window. So again, I think perhaps for me as a coach, learning that when you go to these places, maybe you do have to adjust a little bit in terms of how you want to play and how you set the team up. But I'm really proud of the guys. We went there and we gave it a go. We tried to play our football. Right, we could have sat back and tried to soak up pressure and hit them on a counter attack. That's not really us, right? It's not really what we're good at, and we probably still would have lost if we did that. So I figured why not go for it, and that would be a good measure of where we're at.
And that kind of leads back to the preseason prep. You talked about how you didn't lose a match in preseason, and then you saw the results you did in the early stages of the season. Does that affect how you schedule your preseason matches?
Yeah, we want to try and play against a little bit tougher opposition this time around. I think we want to put the guys in more difficult positions this time around as well, to make sure they face a little bit of adversity, so that they're ready for it when it comes during the season. Because any season, whether a good one or a bad one, there's going to be periods of adversity, right? Obviously, if it's a good one, there's less adversity than if it's a really bad one. But I think understanding as a group how the individuals within the group are going to react in those difficult moments is really, really important in terms of how you coach them, how you lead them. So I think testing them as much as possible during pre-season to see who you can rely on in those difficult moments is really important.
So bear with me, but I have three possible opponents that could prepare you for the upcoming season. I mean, you have Liverpool, you have Aston Villa, you have Tottenham. I mean, just go for it.
Yeah, I wonder if they want to play us. Think they fancy coming over?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking on that too, how much, I guess, how much pull do you have to try to get the preseason matches that you would like to see? Is that something that you have a say in, or is that completely out of your hands? The opponents that you get.
No, we have contacts at all the clubs. MLS, USL Championship, obviously USL One, um, local colleges as well. So no, we reach out to those guys and try and schedule the best games that we can. Obviously, it has to match up for them as well. But no, like we have. I don't want to say 100% control because you have to factor in what the other teams are doing, but we have a good amount of control. And where we're at with our preseason schedule right now, I feel pretty happy with.
Awesome.
And oh, so one of the other key factors that's happening here in the off season as well is your search for an assistant coach. How's that going?
It's good. It's good. We interviewed somebody today. I think we're closing down now in terms of getting closer to select somebody, and yeah, we're confident we'll find the right guy.
Good.
Very nice.
And as you're looking for assistant coaches, similar fashion to the players, what sort of attributes are you looking for in an assistant coach?
Yeah, very similar, Rich. I think you need somebody that has the quality to come in and add something to the group, right? You don't want somebody that's going to be just like me or just like one of the other assistants or another staff member. You want someone that can bring something a little bit different to the party, but you need somebody that is going to add value, and you need somebody that's going to be selfless, right? I think coaches, your job is to serve the players and put on the best possible service for the players, produce the best environment for them. And to do that, everybody on the staff needs to roll up their sleeves and they need to work, right? And they need to put the needs of the players and the team above their own needs. So I think, yeah, you obviously need quality. You need to know the game. You need to be good at coaching and putting sessions on and cutting down film and all those things. But you also need to be a team player. You need to roll your sleeves up and you need to do whatever the team needs you to do in that moment to help the team be successful. So I think, yeah, we're looking for the quality piece, but we're also looking for the mentality piece just as much.
And when you were going through the hiring process with Peter Marlette, Peter even spoke very openly about the fact that once you were hired, obviously, that you and he had several meetings uh, where you spoke for hours on end. What's the interview process for you with these prospects for assistant coaches?
Yeah, it's funny because I think if you're not in the soccer world, how does a coach get hired? Like it's a pretty interesting thing to think about if you're a fan. I would think. So for us, as we're looking for an assistant coach to add now, the first thing that we'll ask them to do is send over their CV, send over a training session, so that we can get a sense of what they're like on the grass, right? So are they engaging with the players? Is their session set up? Do they have good energy? Do they have enthusiasm for the topic at hand? Because I think that's really the ABCs of coaching, right? Are you energetic? Are you enthusiastic? Are you organised? If you've got those things, then you've got a chance to be a good coach. So then after that, we'll select guys to send us some more work and take us through their work. So it'll be a scouting report on an opponent, looking at their in and out possession stuff, um, and then it'll be okay. Once you've looked at them, tell us how you would train to play against that team. So then they'll show us a training session that they've designed to play against that specific opponent. So then if they pass that stage, what we'll do is we'll ask them to do an analysis of us, of Union Omaha, and then talk about what they would do if they were playing against us, right? So like, how would you play? What areas would you target? What would you be watching out for? Along with one or two other bits and pieces as well. So that's the process that we're going through right now. We're finishing that process and close to making a hire, as I said. And look, it's a lot to ask of people, right? I think asking people to do that as they go through this process is a lot, but it also helps us identify who's serious and who's not. And it allows me 3 or 4 different interactions with these people to get a sense for their personality and whether they're really going to mesh with what I'm trying to build in.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Uh, One of the key components to an off season is allowing players to, hit the reset button, kind of get over the physical wounds from the regular season, um, get mentally refreshed. What do you encourage players to do in the off season ahead of the next one?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we want everyone to take a break 3 or 4 weeks, and then we give them an off-season plan to follow. Obviously, they're going to be in different places, right? Some will go home, some will go to their partner's family, others have different places that they call home. So we want them to be comfortable first and foremost, but after a break, we also want them to make sure they're looking after their bodies and coming in the right shape. And then we'll also give the returning players, 1 or 2 areas of their game that we need them to work on in the off season, so that they come in even better than they were at the end of this season. I try not to contact them too much. I think they need a break from my voice, and I think sometimes as a coach, you've got to protect your voice, because if they hear too much of it, then what you say has no impact, right? So I'll reach out to them every 3 or 4 weeks just to check in, see how they're doing. Obviously, if there's things that pop up, if they may have played with a player we're going after, and I need a character reference, then I'll be in touch more frequently. But I try and give them a bit of space because they hear plenty of me during the season, you know. So hearing too much of me in the off season can't be a good thing.
And I know that you're not on social media, so I will speak to defend some of the players. Uh, Marco, Noe, Joe, Lagos. We have been seeing them work out on social media, so they should be coming into season prepared. Do not worry about them not working out.
No, I'm not listening. We have a great bunch of guys. They're great pros, and I know whatever we tell them to do, they're going to do that and more. So I think that the concern for me is making sure they don't do too much, not making sure that they're working. So
Well, I mean, we talked about the players kind of off-season reset. What is your off-season reset look like?
yeah, I'm still waiting for it. I'll probably tell you in a few weeks' time, Brian. I think Rich and I were talking off air that when the season finished, I was hoping to have a little bit of a break, but you go straight into recruiting mode, and I think the intensity of the recruitment is probably even more so than during the season because you're having so many phone calls, you're interviewing players, you're looking at so much tape, you're speaking to agents, you're figuring out what you can afford and which players make sense for our budget. So all that stuff takes time and takes energy. So I guess we won't get a reset until we're about 90% done with the roster.
Have you discovered any new hobbies while living in Omaha?
Any new hobby? Do I live in an Omaha? My wife and I got a dog about 6, 7 months ago. So I guess walking the dog and taking care of the dog is a new hobby of ours. And we've got some neighbours that we play board games with. So maybe the board games and the dog, I guess, could be my new hobbies.
Are you ultra competitive with the board games?
Yeah.
So now we got to ask because my wife would be remiss if I didn't ask what kind of board games are we playing?
A little bit of Monopoly, um, Jenga. Jenga's not really a board game, though, is it? Jenga's more, what would you call Jenga? Is that a board game?
Sure.
I think it falls under the board game. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
it's
go
that
with it.
category, right? It's under that umbrella. Trying to
Do you
think what
play
else we
life size or the table size?
table size.
Okay.
Yeah, table size. Yeah.
Safer that way.
My house is not that big. Yeah. um, yeah, card games. Rummy. Yeah, different types of card games as well. So.
Very nice.
Nice. Does your wife ever have to tell you like, hey, tone it down?
No, I'm normally the one telling her that. She's more
Really?
compared to
Oh,
me. Yeah. No, we when we first started dating, actually, we played Monopoly, and things got pretty heated. And yeah, it was a pretty tense between us for a couple of days after that. So she doesn't like to lose.
I feel like that's a really good way to judge somebody's character is the way they act when they play Monopoly.
oh,
It'll bring out the worst in people.
it
Yeah.
really will. Well, we are hitting right up against that the hour mark. We don't want to hold you too far over that hour mark. Um, Brian, do you have any last second questions?
No, I'm good.
All right. So one final question for you, Coach. Do you have any final words for Union Omaha fans?
Yeah, big thank you for all your support this season. The way you welcomed me and the players and the team it was incredible. And we're looking forward to putting together a great team and then having another great season in 2024.
Awesome. Well, that does it for another episode of League One on the Rocks. Coach, we are just so happy that you were able to join us tonight and to answer all these questions, the fan questions. So just thank you for taking time out of your very busy off season, very busy schedule to do all this. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.